What's up, guys? Casey and George back with the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel, as we are every single Tuesday, 5 Eastern, 4 Central. For those of you who think in that George Central time, you might as well start calling it that, George, because that's the only time you think in. You talk in it, you think in it, is what it is. And you can't even give me a hard time, because I got to shout out those partners we have with GBR that help us make this show happen every single week. TSR Racing Products, get your Turbo 350s, 400, 727 transmissions taken care of. Any parts you need, they got it over there. Champs Performance Parts, you can use the code GBR, get you a little bit of a discount over there. Champ will find anything you need, and he'll usually get it to you in about 2 days, especially if you're over by me. I've got it before in one night. BRG 3D printed products. If you can't find anything, what you're looking for, you know how these race cars are, George. You always got a part that you need, but you can't find it. Brian Garrett can make it for you. You just give him the dimensions. He uses all kinds of CAD products, designs it exactly as you want it. It'll go right in there. I think he's got some quick release delay boxes or quick release mounts anyway, that he specifically makes for K&R. You can find BRG 3D on their website as well. Syntex Printing out there by you in Temple, Texas. Get anything you need, any stickers, anything like that, and anything for business as well. Driven Racing Oil, you can use the code GBR10. Get yourself 10% off Driven Racing Oil, best oil that I have ever used for methanol-specific fuels. Go look at, we did a review over there on GBR, just a really quick thing on my phone, and literally, it shows you right in front of you. I literally show it right to you. It's a 2-minute video on my cell phone. You really can't do any kind of editing with it, so what you see is what you get with that stuff. Best racing oil you can get. ProForm Parts. Visit ProFormParts.com. An endless supply of products over there. Starters, alternators, carburetors, rocker arms, all kinds of stuff. Visit ProFormParts.com. Find anything you need from them. And, of course, our newest partner, you see them right down there. Maybe I can point to it, George. I don't know. I'm not very good at that. But Crew Chief Pro drag racing software. They also sell weather stations. George pointing to it right over there. But, yeah, man, you've seen Don Higgins on the GBR show live. George, obviously, you did a review on their software, kind of how to install it, get all that on the up and up. So I know you got that added to your program this year. What do you think about that stuff, man?
Yeah, man, and I'm sure, guys, I'm new to the game, just like most of you would be if you were, just purchased Crew Chief Pro, the software with a weather station that'll talk directly to your computer. Once you get those two items communicating, Crew Chief Pro gives you a very, very, very beneficial ET predictor. Don's been around the sport for a long time, so he understands how to predict off of methanol, racing gasoline. I think I just saw a nitrous set up inside of it and everything. So he's pretty much got everything that you need, be it a bracket racer or a heads-up racer or whatever type of racer you're trying to do, index class. You're going to need to know what that weather's doing. Let those clouds roll in there, man. You never know what can happen to that humidity or that altitude or whatever the crap happens whenever clouds roll in, which I don't quite understand yet. But I'll tell you what, Crew Chief Pro is probably going to teach it to me, and I'll take the word probably out of the mix and say I'm guaranteeing that it'll teach it to me, give me a little bit more of a thought process on what my car does when certain situations arise. And so looking forward to it. I'll keep you guys up to date as I go through using Crew Chief software. We've got many contacts for Don. There's a YouTube page there as well with some tutorials and things if you guys have the software already. Hopefully you do, and if you don't, head on over to Crew Chief Pro software or crewchiefpro.com and add something new to your cart via either if it's basic just for the logbook, or if it's the full out page and system that has text messages available as well. Standard data fees may apply. I'm just figuring out throw out the commercial, but yeah, man, glad. Like I told you before, and I've told everybody here at GBR, if I was going to make a change to my racing program, the weather station was going to be the first change. Just right after Don Higgins came on the show, which you guys can scroll back and see, I became pretty infatuated with the knowledge that he was able to give us on the screen during that episode of GBR. So, welcome to my camp, Crew Chief Pro.
Absolutely, man. We already got a lot going on over here in the YouTube chat side of things. Nova fan, regular Joe over here. He must have seen the thumbnail. Dylan Champion, semi-regular Joe over here. He had a little insider baseball on that whole deal. Bracket Racer 9622, what's up, GBR? Dragon Drive Addiction, guys. If you haven't gone and checked that out, he was out there at Sick Week all last week, or the vast majority of it. I know he was having a good time. But go check that out. Dragon Drive is a very cool aspect of racing culture and hot rodding culture, and they're doing some big things over there. And I think we owe those guys a little bit of kudos for our parts longevity over the years, because if they can't break it, then nobody can. Scott Lewis, what's up, Scott? Hope to see you pretty soon out there at one of these tracks out here by us. I'm sure I will. Alan Boykin, what's up, GBR? What's up, Alan Boykin? He's sending me pictures of his car over here. He saw little reds on the thumbnail. That's Justin's car up there. Adam just got done with it, rewired the whole thing, painted the hood, fixed the door, fixed the dent up above the windshield. Totally different car now. Looks great from what I've heard. I haven't seen it in real life, but if he's happy with it, then he's pretty meticulous. So I'm sure that it's nice. Jeremy McCracken out there in PCB, Florida. Kevin Ord Little, Team 14 in the house. Haven't seen him for a while, man. Kevin Ord, you've been laying down on us, man.
He might have been on the Facebook side. He's been over here a few times.
Steve Shepard says he just got home from FTI. He loves his ProForm carburetor. Bracket Racer 9622 again over here. Love Crew Chief Pro. Won several rounds because of it. Syntex Printing uses Crew Chief Pro, is what Kevin Ord Little's over here saying. So, yeah, George, what do we got going on here, man?
Man, Facebook side, Brad Gephardt, what's going on? Welcome to the show. We got Lance Craft in here. We got Adam Booyah. Nice spending some time with you on old Roadblocks drag racing. You can drive him in my cars anytime you want to, Booyah. I seen you turn on a few low packages there. Just stay clear of me in the lanes, and we ain't got nothing to worry about there. Al Peebler in here. We use Crew Chief Pro. Great product. Guys, that's a world champion right there. So, I mean, top drag champion. I
think Blake is too.
Right. Sure. That whole camp is very well versed when it comes to putting wind lights on in their lane. So special shout out Al Peebler. Thanks for joining us. Cody Newman in the house. What's going on, my friend? Sean Pinkerton uses the program as well. Crew Chief Pro. It gives a lot of good data. And you can do a lot, and it'll enhance your program is what I'm seeing here. I just kind of paraphrased what I thought I saw there real quick, but Casey, man, interesting show we got going on, and we'll get into it a little bit, and then we'll cut into a couple of races that we got going on in the area, near and dear to me, and some things a little bit further out that I might be taking my way to. But Casey, Joes versus pros, what a topic for today as we kind of preface it. Get ready for open discussion, guys. Leave your comments. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, man. First of all, how's my mic sound? Because I forgot to turn my little thing on now. Is it the same?
I wouldn't have never even noted.
Is it the nice mic right here?
It's the whole crowd here. You are pecking on that thing.
Good, just checking. All right. So I just wanted to make everything good for GBR Live for all the fans and everybody out there that's watching us. I don't want them to turn the show off because we need to do a good show for all these products and all of our people we got watching, man. I'm telling you. So, right. You know, we came up with this on the fly. Like, I'm talking legitimately 30 minutes ago, right? We had a totally different topic in mind, and this is something that I don't even know which one of us came up with it. I think you actually came up with it on accident, and I was like, man, that does need to be said. So let's start out with the fact of let's define. Well, first of all, I guess this whole conversation is going to be based on, does the average Joe, which is us at least, maybe not anybody in the chat, but it's us, right? We're the average man. So does the average Joe have a chance racing against these pro level racers? Because in the day of mega money bracket racing that we're in right now, it seems like there's more and more and more people that you see constantly at all these major races. And, you know, there's a lot of people that think that maybe they don't have the seat time needed to be able to compete with these guys. So I guess we should start with defining what constitutes a professional bracket racer, because we know, like, even Jeff Serra has a day job, I don't know how
Absolutely.
often he visits it, but he's got a
Absolutely.
day job,
Absolutely. I
so
believe it's In Motion Solutions is what he I know he's behind that as well. That could just be one of his hustles. I know Brad Gephardt's in here. He might know pretty well there, but he makes flyers for different races and things like that. And kind of keeps us up to speed there. I know he makes decals, kind of similar to what Syntex does for us here at Going Bracket Racing. So definitely a good place to start. I'll start. Remember, guys, this is open discussion, so I want to hear what you got to say as well, not just talking about what I feel. And I guess I'm going to start right off the bat with the level of racing that you compete in. What do I mean by that? I'm pretty sure most of you know if you're going to the million every year, if you're going to SFG's $1 million races every year, if you're going to the SFG series as a whole, maybe the Great American Series as a whole, TB Promotions as a whole, these bigger bracket races that you have ability to win a very nice piece, life-changing money is the way you can explain it. If you're going to those races in, out, and you're doubling them and you're buying back every single time and you have the ability to do said things, in my opinion, that's going to increase your skill set level on that level of bracket racing. It's a whole nother type of racing. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You get one time run generally instead of two, or one day dedicated straight up to time runs, or a warm up race for $100,000 for crying out loud, you know? So, this is what I feel like are some of the things to think about when you give us an example of what you think a pro is. And that's my feel for it. Casey, what you got?
well, I did. I got a little bit of insight on. Well, me and Dylan Champion were talking on the phone earlier, trying to figure out, what do we determine a professional bracket racer is, and what we kind of came up with was bracket racers who race for life-changing money week in and week out, and what we kind of determined that to be is, obviously 10 grand is nice. 10 grand would go a long way, but it doesn't change your lifestyle. Um, I would say 50,000 and up, like that's to the point where now you can buy a brand new truck, pay it off. You can pay a lot off on your house. You can remodel your house. You buy a new trailer, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, it seems like that's the only races we have anymore. Anything you see on Motor Mania, $50,000 and above. There's actually a great interview that Ryan Gleghorn just did with, I believe, Frankenstein Performance. I think they do a lot of LS stuff. That he was kind of discussing something like that earlier today. It actually came out. I'm only about halfway through the interview, but you know how Ryan's a great ambassador for the sport of bracket racing by far.
Yep.
Also, top announcer in the game right now. So, yeah, man, it's that's how I would, I guess, define what a professional bracket racer is, because as we know, even if you are and this is all changing because with Motor Mania, Drag Racer TV, Bang Shift, and all this stuff, GBR covering all this stuff, maybe we will see professional level racers pretty soon, because guess what? The money you win bracket racing, you can live off that money. You can't live off the money racing Top Fuel, because it's like Ryan said. He said, they can go race for $1 million, barring no splits or whatever. Well, his pump gas Camaro that he runs, he figures it costs about $2 per lap. But a Top Fuel car costs $10,000-$20,000 per lap.
And if I'm not mistaken myself, I saw that old Camaro in the winner's circle at XRP at the first race just last week. So obviously Ryan Gleghorn can drive that thing and turn on some wind lights with it. But case in point, he's drag racing in, I won't call it less than perfect equipment. You know what I mean?
But not optimal.
Would that make him, and we'll get here, I'm pretty sure of it, would his car consider him a Joe or a pro? And I think we could get into a pretty good conversation on that subject as well. I'm going to write it down so we come back to it. And if you see, guys, like I said, like Casey said in the beginning, this is off the cuff. So the ideas are just flowing in our heads as we speak. Keeping it real honest to you there, but
Dragster Jeff, I'm a pro donator.
Hey, well, Join the club,
A
Drexel
lot of
Jeff.
us are.
I'm in that boat, you know. But to be able to do what I love to do at the same time. Casey, so we've defined, in my opinion, or at least getting a little bit of a chat going on what we feel like a Joe versus a pro equals. And a couple of things I feel like we need to go ahead and step into is what I would consider bracket racing's employment. It's the only way, in my opinion, unless you work for the track, are a promoter, maybe you do something else in the sport of drag racing. The only way to be employed as a bracket racer is to be a driver for hire. And in my opinion, there is no way, and everybody again chime in, there's no way not to consider a driver for hire a pro. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, you would consider yourself a professional at what you do for a living, as would I, as would anybody. I mean, whatever your occupation is, that is your professional status, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if you do construction, doesn't matter if you're, an architect, if you're an electrician, or if you're a race car driver. Ultimately, that's what you put down on your tax return. So that is what you are.
True. Very much so true. I feel like those drivers that are for hire, you always hear hired gun as a kind of a phrase that would be given to said Champ McCory or Kendall Little or Jeff Serra or some of these other big, huge names where they're going out drag racing for a percentage of the pot. Okie dokie would be another person that you'd really hear when it comes to that, as he's the employer of said
Right.
drivers most of the time. Gary Williams, Troy Williams, those guys have been drivers for hire. Okay,
Right.
so it's just another way of defining what we would consider a pro. On the latter part of this conversation, not to be above or below, in my own opinion, and we'll get here. How do we define a Joe?
I'd say just somebody who races at the local level. Maybe you do race some big money stuff around your area, but you got to go to your 9 to 5 in the morning. But then again, you got to also think that one of the greatest racers that there is out there, who has been the only person to win back-to-back millions, is Gephardt, and I'm pretty sure he builds cabinets for a living. You
Well,
know, so is he a Joe?
hey. Now let's caveat this now, Casey, because you're bringing up a great point. We're not here to say that Joes are less than pros on this wonderful sport we call bracket racing. Okay, we're just defining it. You bring up a great point. Gephardt is, you can consider him a pro if you want to, but he moves like a Joe as well. You know what I mean? And has cracked many a head that have been called pro. So let's not think that we're just kind of segregating Joes from pros. That ain't what we're doing here. But I will bring up this comment here from Jim Abate. Need to get Peter Biondo in the future to discuss the All-Star race in Columbus. Speaking of All-Star race, I may be seeing a couple of Joes on that list, if I'm being honest. If we had to say, is that list completely full of professional racers? What do you think, Casey? It's something off the cuff. I know we didn't talk about that, but if you were to think about the list, I've seen a couple Joes on the All-Star race list. That has to mean something.
Well, in the terms that we've listed so far as is that your main gig, as far as racing for life-changing money, racing for the type of money you can make a salary throughout the year? I would say, yeah, that is definitely the case. I mean, obviously, Kyle Bigley's far from a Joe. We all know that. He's definitely got ice in his veins, no split, no matter what. If he's in the finals, there's a very good possibility that All-Star race is running for $1,000 and $0, or
Right.
$100,000 and $0 to runner up. So, he's definitely not a Joe by any means, but in the scope that we've laid out, he's got a trailer sales company. He doesn't race for a living. I guess you would consider him, an average Joe like the rest of us.
If I'm not mistaken myself, I think that trailer sales company is just one of his hustles. He may do some type of real estate, if I'm not mistaken myself. I've talked to him a bunch now that I play the Roblox game. He's on there too. I seen him win the other day, about $500. Congratulations, by the way. But definitely a well-versed racer that could fall into the Joe category. I'm sure we can name many more. It seems like, and this is just a comment, this is a blanket comment here, no harm intended here. But Shane Carr has been a little bit off of the beaten path here lately, but has also been a pro at the same time. So
Right.
what would we say Shane Carr would be?
Well,
Absolute head stomper. He will knock your head.
right.
He'll knock your head off fast in a race car,
Depends
right?
on the year. Just depends on the year that he decide to. I think he had a wrecker business for a while. So did he decide to run that, or did he decide to go racing? Because it's kind of just like what he feels like doing at the time. If he feels like going racing, then he just goes and wins races real quick, and then maybe he goes back, runs his own business for a little while, gets bored.
I like it too. Brad Gephardt saying here in the chat, and I'm gonna read a couple more of. But Sugar's a hybrid. That's fine. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of both with some of these guys. And let's all not get it twisted. There's only a very select few that I could say wasn't a Joe before they became a pro in the first place. Okay, so let's not get that left off this conversation either. You started somewhere. You had your ability to say be a local just terrorist. You beat everybody because you were that good at your local level. Somebody saw you and picked you up and brought you to the top, you know. So definitely a good comment out of Brad Gephardt there. Sean Pinkerton, if it is how you get paid for a living, you're a professional. I like it. If you travel as much as possible around a primary job, then you aren't doing it professionally for a living. I like that as well. He's basically pretty much along the same lines as us when it comes to how to define the two.
Right, exactly. So let's go back to what you were talking about earlier, which is, essentially, does parts quality matter? I don't think that the average bracket racer, I don't care who you are, I don't care if you're Jeff Serra, I don't care if you're Hunter Patton, I don't care if you Luke Bogacki, you can't get your hands on parts that another person can't get. Like I heard a big deal the other day that for No Prep Kings, Ryan Martin has some new F4 Pro Charger that's experimental thing that nobody else can get yet. Now, if you have, like, for example, an F1R, like just in smaller terms, if you have an F1R, the F1R is nothing compared to the F1X. So if it's that level of a difference, that's a big deal. But that's not going to happen in bracket racing. Yeah, well, but the fact of the matter is that's not going to happen in bracket racing. If you call APD and say, I want the same carburetor Luke Bogacki has, and they say it'll cost you this much and you can pay the bill, they'll give it to you, because that's what they do. Like that's their business. That's how it goes. So, for example, Ken Jones Performance, he'll sell you the same carburetor that he has on his Camaro right now. He'll take it off that car, give it to you, and put a different one on his car. Because guess what? Who built it? He built the exact same thing. But the fact of the matter is that there's nothing in that carburetor that he's scared to sell you, because Ken Jones Performance is based on making everybody else's cars perform to their best. That's what he's selling. He's not selling racing. He's selling performance.
And I like it too. I like it. I think it may have been Fast and the Furious where it says, you're not looking under my hood. Don't look underneath my hood and see what I got under here. Or pro stock of the old. I know this is pro stock and not bracket races, but every time somebody got on a camera, you saw a little towel or something over the top of the intake or something to cover up what they're actually doing. Not very many secrets going on right now in the bracket racing world. You know what I mean?
Right.
Come out here, get a motor. And now you got to screw the seats. Don't get me twisted. You got to be able to drive to turn on some wind lights in this bad boy, and maybe that would be kind of what determines a pro as well. Well, we can come back to that. Just straight record. I'm gonna write it down so we can come back. And
the thing is too is that quality of parts matters, but you know what matters more than quality of parts? Who touched it last? That's what matters the most. And don't forget that every single person out there can also work on their own stuff, and they can learn how to work on their own stuff. It's harder. Now, if we're talking about like some 632 Big Chief motor with like 15-to-1 compression and a ton of nitrous, you can blow that up fairly easily. But if you got your regular 383, 406 small block with, maybe 10, 11-to-1 compression, you got a pretty big tuning window on that before you can legitimately just destroy it. So right. That's, if you want to learn, build something like that and try to figure out how to learn. That's what I did.
Right, and I'm going to take Sean Pinkerton's comment here. He's saying he disagrees to some extent. He's saying some of these guys are testing and perfecting things before the general public can get them. And I'm actually going to stop there. And yes, that is. I feel like I've never heard of this in my own, or like in my own personal, like been around somebody who's like, hey man, I got this new Get 'em performance carb or KG or KJP, man. ProForm came out with this new carburetor. It's got this, and this, and nobody ever had it before. Man, I'm running within a thou every single pass. I'm not run into that, but that's not to say it's not out there. Okay, that's not to say, especially in today's age where we do a lot of product reviews and things of that nature, where somebody has been given a product to test it and then deliver said data on the testing product. That's a very commonality. That's common right now, right?
Right.
But I just haven't heard of it very much myself. So I agree with Sean Pinkerton here.
I do agree with that to an extent, but don't forget that just because they're testing some new fancy thing, the reason they're testing is because it's not perfected yet. It could easily go the other direction as well. But if they're sponsored by that person and that person says this is part of your deal, then if they have to go run that thing, it could be inferior to the one that they otherwise had. So it could just as easily go the second way. But I do agree with what he said. That is a true statement. There are people out there running through some things. I think Hunter was doing that a few years ago. Running through some converters for some people and changed a ton of converters in the lanes. So obviously that's what he was doing.
Yeah. So definitely something I feel is accurate. To be able to be selected as that person, however, is not necessarily something that you're gonna see an average Joe be selected for unless they have the power of politics on their hand. I have shaken hands with Marco Abruzzi and he liked me, and we had a good night reaching into the cooler or something. I brought him a couple of different drinks he'd never tasted before, so he liked me and he added me as a friend and said, hey man, I got this new cutting edge piece. You seem like a cool guy. Keep it between yourself, but here, test this. You know what I mean? So,
right.
But that's going to happen more frequently for your Jeff Serras, your Bruzies. Of course, Bruzy is testing most of his own stuff anyway, right? But it's going to happen for those level of people. So I think it could be a differentiator as well. We got more to come here, though, Casey, man. We're coming up to a good point. Let's go ahead and get a couple of commercials in here, and we'll come right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Make sure to hit that like and share button. The more people we got in here, the more conversational pieces we can discuss with you. Keep that chat buzzing. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top-selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
TSR Racing Products has everything you need to make your Powerglide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
Unleash your horsepower with ProForm Super Street aluminum roller rockers. Utilize the latest cutting-edge manufacturing and design processes. The dual contoured body design allows for more rigidity with a greater strength-to-weight ratio, increasing engine power. Super Street aluminum roller rockers are available for a variety of applications and specs for Chevy, GM, and Ford, including pedestal mount, as well as a Chrysler shaft mount style rockers. On the strip or the street, ProForm has you covered.
Welcome back. Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel, Going Bracket Racing Facebook page. GBR Live is what we like to call ourselves for short. Welcome back to live discussion, open discussion surrounding the topic of Joes versus pros. And we're going to continue with that conversation, but let me first say thank you to everybody of marketing partners that we have here. Thank you for everything that you do for the Going Bracket Racing community. Crew Chief Pro, welcome to the party. BRG, thanks for everything you do. I definitely seen that extinguisher mount. I'll have one in my car, as well as I'm having a bump down button bracket created, or a holder to where I can put that bump down in my hand. I'm not looking for it no more, even though I know I needed to hit it. I just didn't need to take my eyes completely off the track in order to find it. So that one costed me. Anyway, ProForm parts, thanks for what you do. TSR Racing Products, thank you for all that you do for us as well. Everybody, make sure you take a look at our partners before you go and buy what you need. You might be able to find something right here inside of the Going Bracket Racing community. So right back to you, Casey. Let's continue going. Lorenzo Martin, welcome in. And we'll continue with the chat there. What you got?
Well, Fixing Used Race Cars put this in right before the commercial break, and this is definitely something that I want to touch on that I get made fun of for a lot, but I've learned more in the last year than I've learned in probably 10 years of racing. But Fixing Used Race Cars says test and tune is the only way to learn, and I agree with that 100%. I know that a lot of my friends make fun of me about it. Truth be told, sometimes I'm not even trying to learn anything. I just want to go drive my car, and luckily Gephardt Motorsports Park has a $20 test and tune on Thursday, which is pretty much the cheapest in the country that I've ever heard of. So, and I live right down the road from there, so luckily I can take advantage of that. And to be honest with you, half of owning a race car is driving the race car. Just like, at least in my mind. And sometimes I just want to go make a couple runs and come back home. So that's what I do. But you can utilize test and tune to make your car good. Bottom line is the pros, talking about this whole pros versus Joes thing, the pros learned how to be good race car drivers because of seat time. No one's going to argue with that. Yes, parts make you better, things like that as well. No one's going to argue with that either. But seat time is ultimately what makes you a great race car driver. And how do you think that those pros learned how to drive the way they do? It's probably not because of test and tune, but it's because they made thousands of runs. Somebody who shoots 1,000 free throws will always be better than somebody who shoots 10. That's just how it is.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to be said about that, and I definitely, I'm gonna preface what I'm about to say here by saying, can test and tune be the great equalizer for the Joe to compete with the pro? Just like you said, Casey, it's a matter of seat time. The pros get in one weekend. I'm gonna pick on Matt Daddis, for crying out loud. I was at the same race Matt Daddis was at. I am going to dub myself definitely a Joe, but I was at TB Promotions race. Matt Daddis made 50 passes more than I made, okay? In the same race, okay? 50 more passes than me is equal to how many passes I probably could make in a year he made in one weekend, okay? So does test and tune then become the great equalizer? Is it? Casey, you've been harping on me since GBR's been GBR, since I've owned a race car, since I've known you about getting the test and tune, being able to test my equipment to find out the optimal setup to help me turn on more wind lights. You've been on me. This year is going to be the first year that I'm actually going to listen. Let me be honest to you. And I'll say it outright to Casey told me a long time ago, guys, and I just didn't do it. If it was for the sake of time, then so be it. It definitely wasn't finance because, like you said, test and tune isn't generally that much in order to go to the track, get you about 4 or 5 good passes in and going back home, So definitely something I'd have to say that I'm going to get better at. At the same time, I have new equipment. I have new shocks. I have new things that I want to test about my car. They're new to me. Let me just say they're not new. I haven't figured them out yet. That's better, right? Well, test and tune is a way that I could figure that out. But how much more efficient am I going to be as a racer knowing that I have a trustworthy car underneath me? If I feel like I missed the tree and didn't bump down, I can run this bad boy out the back door knowing that it's going to be at a certain level of what I expect it to be based on my dialing, right?
Right. Yeah, man. And the thing is at the end of the day, it's the thing that I always say is don't be scared to start turning wrenches on your race car, because like I was saying earlier, there's actually a wider tuning window before catastrophe than people actually think. But, a perfect example would be, I want to say Ricky Smith. I don't know if he just got inducted. It would be crazy if he just now got inducted, but he got into the Drag Racing Hall of Fame, North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame. He's either already in there. I mean, he's in there. I know that. That's my point. But do you think Ricky Smith just magically knew how to tune a race car? Ricky Smith's won a championship in the last like 4 decades or something, maybe even 5. He's won a championship every decade. He's like 70 years old. But the fact of the matter is Ricky Smith has he's run regular cars, pro stock cars, obviously one of the godfathers of pro mod racing as it stands. Now he's going to run PDRA this year. By far one of the greatest racers and tuners of all time. And he didn't just magically learn how to do that. He tested and he learned things as he went. Now he was learning different things than what a bracket racer would learn. But the point is, testing's testing. It doesn't matter what you're testing. It matters that you're testing it.
I think you're spot on, too. And I see a comment in Facebook from Christopher Paul Dorn. Doom is his last name. It says, self-made EFI tuner. Doing it on my wife's car and on my car for years now. It has made my LS1 run on the number all day long. So, you have someone who's basically saying, I purchased an EFI. I didn't know anything about said EFI, but enough about cars and tuning in that tune window that you're talking about, Casey, that I went out and wasn't afraid to do what Brad Gephardt says right here. Make changes. Because one thing that could hinder the great equalizer is going, testing, and tuning and not making any changes. You're not changing this. I believe Brad Gephardt's been testing tuning. I want to say he might have pulled a converter out during testing tune, put a different converter in there to go test it a run right afterwards. Right? It's those type of things. Which converter does my car like if you have 2 converters? I only have 1 right now. But let's say Brad sent me a converter down here. Hey, George, try this converter out. And if you like it, just buy it from me. Well, if I go to test and tune and compare the two, make a pass with mine and make a pass with his, now I have the same conditions, but a different converter in order to see, did this help or hinder?
And the thing that a lot of people don't think about also is the level of confidence that you get by working on your own stuff. And I don't mean just by saying, oh man, this is cool because if I win the race, this is all my stuff, nobody helped me. That's cool too. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I'm the one that champions that all the time. That's what I think is ultimately the coolest thing. But the thing that I'm talking about is the fact that if you hear something funny, or if something weird happens, or if you have to fix something during a race, number one, you have the skill set to fix it in the middle of the rounds, and now you can make the next round, potentially go on and win the race. But the thing more than anything is there are so many little bits of racing where you're like, oh man, what was that sound? Oh man, why did it all of a sudden fall off here? Oh, why did this happen? Like just things like that. And you can be like, okay, I know it's not this because I can check that and I can see it's not that. And you can go up for the next round not being nervous, being like, man, I hope it doesn't lose 2 numbers right here. Man, it spun the tires here. You can figure out, oh, I need to adjust shocks, need to adjust tire pressure, I need to do this. But you know what to do, so you can go up to the next round and be competitive. You're not scared of yourself.
That's a great point, and I will take that point personally to myself. I will grab that from what we're talking about now and apply it to myself. Brad Gephardt, I keep saying his name. It's one of my best friends. Hey, I know Brad Gephardt very well. Let me be honest to you. That's pretty much how I got hooked on Crew Chief Pro in the first place. Was at the TB Twin 50s race where Brad had Crew Chief Pro in a full weather station and entered my car into it so that I had a place to go for predictions. At the same time, it was a new setup. I just put shocks on the car. Brad and his mom, Jacqueline, looked at the car leave and thought, let's try something a little different with the rear end. Let's change a few clicks here and there. Would I have ever done that myself? The answer is no. Do you want to know how I know the answer is no? Because I didn't do it myself. I said, Brad, I'm walking away from my car right now. I called him on the cell phone. Legitimately, this is not made up. He'll tell you this himself. I called him on the cell phone and I said, man, hey, Brad, come over here and make those changes you talking about while I ain't looking. All right. And he came and he made those changes. And luckily, I was 20 on the treat against the guy's red light, made the pass. This was third round. Got the win. Fourth round, fifth round, sixth round get ready to come up. Now I'm sitting on a machine I made a change to for the better. So,
right.
If I have made changes like this during test and tune, I'm going to be more comfortable than having to say, call Casey from North Carolina. Hey, Casey, there's a plane ticket waiting on you. Come out here and make this change to my carburetor real quick so that I can feel a little bit more confident. You see what I mean?
Well, yeah, man. And the thing is, if you do that all at test and tune, again, going back to utilizing test and tune to make your car good, you can make 7 changes throughout the night and have no repercussions, and if it's fifth round of a major race, I don't care who you are, you're going to be second guessing, should I even do this? Because at least I know it's going to screw up this much, but it might screw up way more now, or it might be right, so you're gambling right there. But
it's right.
At test and tune, it doesn't matter. If you're never supposed to, if you're really trying to learn, obviously you wouldn't change more than one thing at a time. But if you make a drastic change to your front shocks and your rear shocks and your carburetor all at the same time, at test and tune, you don't know which one worked, but it doesn't matter at test and tune.
True.
But the goal of test and tune is to learn. It's not to just throw crap together and hope it works out.
True. Al Pivla comes back in and says the best way to get better at racing is to race a lot. Make as many passes against good racers and have steady equipment. I mean, obviously, this particular person would know how to be good at racing. This is the top dragster champion who also has a child who is a top dragster champion.
And speaking of Al, are you going to Bradenton now that they're going to allow top dragster a World Series of Pro Mod? Are you going to be a part of that? I hope he is.
I hope he is too. That'd be fun to watch. I know it's going to be aired somewhere. I think on national TV, if I'm not mistaken myself.
CBS, I believe.
Geez, big time there. So, Casey, man, this has been a pretty good conversation thus far. I'm trying to think. I wrote down this too. As we go back to the Joes versus Pros conversation, do you think that record, wins versus losses, has a lot to do with becoming a pro versus a Joe?
I mean, well, obviously, because how do you reach pro level without domination? You know what I mean? That's the way that you do it. You have to be at a front runner at all times. Like Corey Galletti's always deep. If there's a 3-day race, he usually wins one of them. Same with Jeff Serra.
There's a dragster on the line. Jeez.
Right. Yeah. That's the only way that Corey and Chris get new dragsters is Corey just enters a dragster race a couple times a year and wins one.
Oh, Al Pivla chimes in and says, no, don't have anything ready. So he's not going to be headed out to that race. Doggone, that would have been fun to watch. But no, to your point, I think that, and I brought it up, I figured your answer would be similar to mine. That resume, and I'm not talking about just for our everyday jobs or what we're doing, our experience levels with what we are doing as for a living. Resume means just about everything. If you have the resume that shows you know how to turn on that win light, chances are you can turn into a pro too. It's all about want to from there, because you and I both know that on the local level, show up at Division III if you want to. Show up out there at Galot. Come on down here to Extreme Raceway Park or Ardmore and see what's going on at some of these local racing events. Ennis is back open. Old Ryan Gleghorn's running a bracket program, I believe. Show up out there and think that just because you're not racing a quote-unquote pro, that the round's going to be easy just because that pro's not there. These pros come from somewhere. I played pool, and this is another topic I wanted to get on. When we were talking about, do the looks of the vehicle have anything to do with anything? I want to hold my thoughts because I was a pool player. You know it. Coming up, we had the motorcycles and everything. I played a lot of pool. Well, I had a stick in my bag called a Sneaky Pete. And why did I have that Sneaky Pete? I didn't want anybody to know that I was pretty doggone good at pool. So I'll pull out that Sneaky Pete that looks just like the normal bar cues and play some pool. Next thing you know, I have quite a few wins and quite a few beverages. You know what I mean? So I think that look of car does not qualify pro versus Joe. Looks can deceive you faster than anything. You look at that Nationwide car and just don't see any of those stickers and all those entries on the side on the window. If that car was just blank, would anybody think that that Nationwide car was Nick Hastings without the name being on the side of it?
Probably not, man. That's a good point. And it kind of leads to kind of the next thing that I had written down, which was kind of the simple fact of, I've said this ever since we started GBR, because a lot of people with these shows don't really talk like this. They are the pros. Well, I've always said, don't be scared of the pro in the lane next to you, because don't forget about the fact that that pro needs to win to pay his bills, keep his sponsors, keep his ride. You're just there having fun. It's you want to win the race, obviously, but it's irrelevant if you win the race or not. You're still going to be able to make your house payment. No one's going to kick you out of your car. No one's going to give your ride to somebody else who's performing better that year. They should be more nervous than you. And I think a lot of people forget about that. They might look calm and cool, but I don't necessarily think that they're as calm as they look on the outside. They might be calm because they're not footing the bill. But ultimately, I think that they need to be more nervous than running Joe Schmo in the finals, because Joe Schmo, he's going to take that money and be like, this is awesome. I got all this money now. What do I want to do? Maybe I want a new lawnmower. Maybe I want a new motor for my race car. Maybe I want, some random parts from BRG. He'll make me some stuff. But that other guy's got to win the money for his car owner.
So Casey, and before I get this going here, Greg Gephardt chimes in and says he learned through testing tune, I'm adding to this, by the way, that the GBR decal makes the car more consistent. That's pretty good. I'm going to test that out and see if that's true. I think you're right, though. That's in my data.
I'm going to have to put about 500 on my car.
Slap them everywhere, huh? Slap them everywhere. No, but definitely, Casey, man, I think that there's a lot to be said about what you just said. Pros, like it or not, yes, they are racing for somebody else and keep their spot. I think it makes it harder on a pro sometimes too, because you get the old bullseye effect. Mm-hmm. Without there being an announcement of a duck race, or take this person out and win this said bounty hunter event, you're automatically somebody that I look over the shoulder. I see Scotty Richardson in the other lane. I mean, luckily me and Scotty are kind of the same, but I'm not scared. That's a problem for pros, because I'm not going to say they race down to anybody's level, but you have a bullseye on your back because you are a pro.
Well, Scotty, speaking of him, he refers to them as landmines, because people might just throw something to the wall and hope it sticks, and they might take 10 out of the box. And now all of a sudden, rather than being 14, now they're 4 on the tree. And or maybe they get hyped up and they're perfect on the tree, and they go down there and do something they wouldn't normally do and make the race look weird and win the race. And then next round they go back up there and they might be 20 again. It's so that's true, man. And just as much of an advantage as it is to be your pro level racer, it's equally and sometimes even more so a disadvantage.
Yeah, Al Peebles still here. He says, for me, a pro is just a guy who has had many more opportunities than an average guy. The local guy may be just as good, man. This is a good one. Just not on a big time level. Yo, man, that's spot on. That just kind of trumps the whole conversation in my. I'm glad this happened now when we're almost an hour in, because that really puts a damper in the whole conversation right there.
Well, no, he's right, because the thing is a guy we used to race with at Gateway every single weekend, Greg Sesty. Nobody would think of him as a pro, but guess what? He randomly rolls down there to the OG Million, and if you look at that list, Greg Sesty's name's on there.
And cracked him.
And yeah, and I mean, it's that goes to Al's point. Greg has to go to a day job, but when Greg shows up, he shows up big time.
That's fact, man.
And you're going to see somebody that I believe you have not seen win the OG Million at Gateway this year, because there's a lot of guys there that are some of the best racers I've seen, and they do go to day jobs every day, but they'll be at the OG Million. I've named some right now. Clay Tyler, Angelo Belosi, Greg Sesty, obviously.
Belosi won TB's 50.
Right. Greg Sesty, obviously. Corey Lando. The McCaig brothers.
The
McCaig brothers are going to be, one of them will for sure be down to, I'd say, 16 cars easy. Those guys, man, they dominate the Midwest. No one will argue.
Casey, man, that's spot on too, especially considering where we are now. I remember the first time I pull up at I-30 and somebody seen my 3247 card number and was like, "Where'd you get that 3 from?" I got it from Division 3. I don't know if they were like, "Oh crap," or what, but Division 3 has never been a slouch. I know it's where we came from. Both of us are now in different areas, and there are racers in Division 3 who I would put on the track with just about anybody out there. Okay, anybody out there.
You know what I wonder? This just popped into my head just now. I wonder if Ricky Thomas will be running it in his foot brake car.
Don't doubt it at all. Don't doubt it. I mean, you got the Redlowski boys out there. Guarantee you they'll be running. You got some big names out there, and I hope to be in attendance, if not racing, at the OG, because it's at home. My whole family's gonna be there. I can tell you that. Don't sleep on an old Atchison boy out there. I'm gonna put that out there right now. There's gonna be at least four of them out there. So go sleep if you want to. Let my old dad get on a groove. Let Steve Beckmeyer. People don't even know that name, but let old Steve catch a good groove. Ken Jones. Let any of those guys catch a groove, and you're gonna see somebody you might not have seen on the largest scale take home one of the larger event wins. I think you're right, Casey, man. Are you saying that we're going to see a average Joe win the old OG Million this year? That what I hear?
Because I can tell you for a fact that I've heard this several times in the past that back in the day, Gateway was one of the tracks that had Mega Bucks, which was one of the original big money bracket races where people would travel for. Like Underwood, the Williams brothers, Bloomfields, all those guys. That's where they would go to these races. There's a track, I-57 drag strip. I'm sure everybody knows about it now because Luke lives around there now. But we grew up there, and we've always known.
Yep.
Right, IHRA, newly IHRA. That's been a very long time. They haven't been sanctioned since my dad. There's a picture on the Going Bracket Racing Facebook page with Dad on there where they were going to bracket finals for I-57 drag strip. That's how long ago they've been sanctioned. That was before I was even born. But so anyway, what were we talking about? I don't even remember what we were talking about.
I forgot too.
You don't know.
But, I got you. I-57, because we're coming out of Division 3, and I-57 is right there in Division 3, and the racers would come to us. Yeah.
I know what I was going to say. So everybody, back in the day, what a lot of people used to do is they used to go and headhunt for entry fee money along the way at little tracks along the way. And there were several of these big money racers that would not stop by I-57 anymore because they'd go there and waste their money, and they just spend more money on their way to Gateway. So they quit going there. That's a true story.
Right.
That's a true story from about the late 90s, early 2000s.
One that I've heard many times. I can remember a Mega Bucks, I think it might have been Super Mega Bucks, where we had to park in the oval in order to get all the cars inside a Gateway. I don't remember what year it was, but it was packed to the brim, So definitely, right before we get out of here, I definitely want to say I'm looking forward to the OG Million this year, with it being in St. Louis. TB Promotions races in St. Louis again as well, and that's going to be a another big event. So Midwest is getting some love this year.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be pretty cool because I still think that that's all because of Brian and Tyler showing what they can do with TB Promotions in that area, because that area had no love for a really long time. And Brian and Tyler, I know they had some bumps along the way, but they kept with it. And I think that Brian and Tyler at TB Promotions are the reason why the Midwest is doing what it's doing now. And the reason why the OG Million went there ultimately, because they are the ones that showed that you can have a high level race. And they did not have great conditions to have their high-level race,
dude.
Yeah.
It's like I brought all of Texas with me. It was like 110 with humidity out there. So I thought I left the 110 degree heat. back home when I came up north. But man, I guess I went on ahead and brought it with me.
Yeah, well,
But
they
Casey,
had
man,
everything was working against them, and they put on a great show. And I'll always say it. I think the OG Million's going there because of what they did.
oh man, no question about it. No question. I want to do something here real quick though. We got a few races coming up, Casey. I'm just gonna gloss over them real quick. Average Joes don't often get the chance to run for 100 grand. And I feel like where this is not an average Joe centric race, it's not like centered around the average Joe. You get Club 150, Casey. Galen's putting on that race. What do you got with that race? You seen that flyer?
Yeah, man. As usual, that'll be an awesome race at Gulfport Dragway. Under new management, Galen Rollison, Britt Cummings. I'm pretty sure Tommy Castaneda. They all manage that track together. You got the promoter side. You got obviously a great, historical promoter that has done tons and tons of stuff. GABR and the whole team has done things no one else has done before. You got racers, promoters, and track managers all working together. I'll say it again. I wish Gulfport Dragway was closer to me because I can't imagine going there and not having a good time. And then if you don't have that great of a time, go to the casino right down the road.
Or the beach. So, it's right there too, right?
Yeah.
Hit the
You'll
beach.
have a good time. Come on back and race for the next 2 days.
One way or the other. But last but not least, one series that we got to highlight live and in person with Greg Gephardt, manager of the Central Illinois drag strip. You guys are going to be putting on one heck of a series, is what I would say. Race for $7 grand every single event, both Saturday and Sunday, and there's 6 of them. So we can't just talk about the OG Million. We can't just talk about the TB race without talking about what the Mid-State Lucky Sevens bracket series actually does to the pockets of said Joe, or pro for that matter. Talk to me, Casey, man, because that's going to be one heck of a series.
Well, didn't Greg say that they're also doing a points program with it?
It's a points program involved. I think they take 15 bottom, 15 top, or something of that nature, throw them together, and then 2 gets drawn out of a hat for a free 10 grander, where the loser of the first round makes $100 just for being in that top, quote unquote, 16. I think they're also giving out a gold card as well. I think for both. So definitely a lot going on at that race.
I know I had nothing to do with Central Illinois Dragway, but I want to tell everybody who wins the championship this year, you're welcome, because I would like to take credit for the idea that points programs need to come back, because I've been harping on it this entire year ever since VMP.
Yeah, you can kind of go back, and Casey has been a very strong catalyst of the points program. So, hey, looks like we're going to have some points program coming up. But, Casey, man, we came up on an hour faster than I thought, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with us. A couple of guys that put together a topic kind of on the fly there. Like I said, about 30 minutes before we went on the air. Get ready for next week's stream. I think it's going to be fun. Casey and I have been doing this over 100 episodes now, so we're going to do a little bit of a flashback. See where it all started, see where we are now. Kind of a reality check, I guess, right, Casey?
Yeah, realize how much we sucked in the beginning.
Oh, man. So, guys, thanks for tuning in with us here on Going Bracket Racing Live on Open Discussion Week. We'll have another open discussion, I feel, next week. But as always, we'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks for joining us.